66 million years ago, Earth got punched in the face by the cosmic equivalent of a bowling ball. A massive asteroid slammed into what's now Mexico and ruined everything dinosaurs had going for them. Forests burned, skies darkened, temperatures dropped. In a geological blink, the ruling reptilian superstars were gone. End credits rolled. Mammals shuffled awkwardly into the spotlight like understudies who never rehearsed. But let's hit rewind. Imagine if that asteroid, the one with worse aim than your friend in dodgeball, had just missed. Maybe it slipped by Earth. Or maybe it landed in the middle of the ocean and didn't do as much damage. What if dinosaurs got to keep the throne? Would they still rule the planet? Would mammals like us still show up? Or would Earth look like Jurassic Park but without Jeff Goldblum's sarcastic commentary? Before we answer, quick pause. Hey, you found us! We make these deep dive videos to mix learning with a bit of fun, and every like or subscribe really helps us keep making them. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. Maybe you're lying in bed in Toronto at 2 a.m. Maybe you're sneaking a watch during lunch in Mumbai. Or maybe you're sitting on a bus next to someone blasting TikToks at full volume. Either way, thanks for hanging out here. So put on your headphones, close your eyes. This is made for relaxation and learning. Ready? Let's begin. If the asteroid had missed, the world today would be a dinosaur planet. And not just T-Rex stomping around like a giant chicken with anger issues. We're talking entire evolutionary experiments that never got the chance to play out. Dinosaurs weren't some static collection of scaly monsters. They were innovators. Some were already shrinking, growing feathers, and learning to glide through the air. Others were developing sharper brains, keener senses, and new survival strategies. Evolution wasn't done with them. The asteroid just slammed the door shut early. Here's where the roasting begins. Dinosaurs were basically nature's overconfident franchise. Imagine if Marvel kept pumping out movies forever without ever letting anyone else direct. They had size, they had style, they had the whole planet under their feet for 165 million years. Meanwhile, mammals were tiny night shift janitors, scurrying around like interns stealing crumbs off the buffet table. Without that asteroid, mammals might have stayed background extras forever. Humanity in this alternate timeline probably never even makes it past the small furry snack stage. But the fun part is imagining how dinosaurs could have evolved. Some paleontologists think that if they kept going, certain lineages might have developed bigger brains, smarter behaviour, and maybe even societies. Picture raptors with toolkits, herds of sauropods that migrate like living skyscrapers across continents, armoured dinosaurs with defence strategies so wild they make medieval castles look boring. Dinosaurs weren't just giant lizards, they were constantly changing, adapting, upgrading. The asteroid froze their story before the sequel. Of course, evolution is chaotic, not a straight line. It doesn't aim toward intelligence or technology. If it did, we wouldn't have animals like the sunfish, which somehow survives while being terrible at almost everything. So even in a dinosaur-dominated Earth, we can't guarantee there'd be dino-humans writing philosophy or building Wi-Fi. But we can say this. Dinosaurs would have kept diversifying, filling niches, pushing the limits of size, speed and survival in ways mammals never had the chance to compete with. Imagine the ecosystems. Giant forests echoing with sauropod bellows, skies filled not with birds, but with massive feathered reptiles stretching wings the size of airplanes. Apex predators prowling coastlines where whales would have been, hunting fish with jaws lined like bear traps. Earth would be louder, wilder, and maybe a lot scarier. And in that chaos, mammals would stay small. Rodents, possums, and insect eaters hiding under the radar. No primates, no humans, no internet. Just a world where dinosaurs never hand over the keys, but that's just scratching the surface. To really imagine this alternate world, we need to step deeper into the science of dinosaurs, their anatomy, their behaviour and their survival strategies. Only then can we guess what the world might look like if the asteroid had simply missed the dinosaurs who could have ruled. If the asteroid never showed up, the world wouldn't just have been stuck with the same dinosaurs we know from Jurassic Park merch. Nope. Evolution had already scattered its seeds, and some lineages were primed to take the spotlight. Imagine history like a talent show where the judges walked out right before the best acts came on. That's the dinosaurs story. Let's start with the raptors. Not the oversized Hollywood nightmare versions, but the real deal. Smart, nimble, feather-covered predators about the size of a turkey. Yes, a turkey, which means Thanksgiving could have been a much more dangerous holiday. Raptors were already showing signs of higher intelligence compared to their bulkier cousins. Bigger brains relative to body size, sharp problem-solving instincts, and social hunting behaviour. In short, the wolves of the Cretaceous. If mammals hadn't been given their big break, it's possible these brainy little killers would have kept getting smarter, maybe even developing complex communication or cooperative hunting strategies so advanced that lions would look like amateurs. Then there were the sauropods, the long-necked skyscrapers of Earth, picture animals the length of airplanes, moving in herds across forests that had to bend to their appetites. These creatures were so massive that even physics had to do double takes. How do you pump blood up a neck taller than a house? How do you even stand without your bones snapping like toothpicks? And yet, they pulled it off for millions of years. If the asteroid missed, sauropods might have continued evolving into even stranger giants. Maybe they would have become super-sized versions that grazed the tallest trees, or compact city bus models that specialized in different habitats. Evolution doesn't do moderation. If something works, it pushes until the laws of nature start filing complaints. And then we get to the duck-billed dinosaurs, the hadrosaurs. On first glance, they look like background NPCs, goofy, plant-eating herds with weird crests sticking out of their heads like badly designed party hats. But those crests weren't just for show. They were hollow, forming giant resonating tubes. Imagine a dinosaur vuvuzela blasting across a valley. These were communication devices, maybe for attracting mates, warning predators, or just annoying the neighbours. Hadrosaurs had complex social structures and lived in massive groups. If evolution had more time, they might have become the cows of the dino world. Only instead of mooing, they'd be producing prehistoric EDM with their skulls. But let's not forget the armoured dinosaurs, the ankylosaurs. Picture a living tank with a club on its tail that could smash bones like baseball bats. They were already survival champions, shrugging off predators like walking fortresses. Give them more time, and maybe they'd evolve even more elaborate defences, spiked armour, massive tail weapons, or shells so strong even meteors would bounce off. Okay, maybe not meteors, but you get the idea. What's fascinating is how diverse dinosaurs already were right before the asteroid. They weren't just giant lizards stomping around. They were experimenting with size, shape, behaviour, and intelligence in every direction. Feathered flyers, armoured brutes, giant herbivores, pack-hunting predators. It was like evolution's ultimate sandbox. With the asteroid out of the way, this experimentation would have gone into overdrive. Entire ecosystems could have been dominated by creatures we can barely imagine. And that leaves us with the ultimate what-if question. Could any of these dinosaurs have evolved into something more human-like? Not humans exactly, but creatures capable of technology, culture, maybe even the civilizations. Some scientists have speculated about a dinosauroid, a thought experiment where small, smart theropods evolve into upright tool-using beings. Think of a velociraptor with opposable thumbs and a brain upgrade. Creepy? Absolutely, but not impossible. Of course, evolution doesn't have a master plan. It's not sitting there thinking, okay, next step, inventing Wi-Fi. It's random, messy, and driven by survival in the moment. Maybe raptors would have become smarter. Maybe sauropods would have gotten weirder. Or maybe cockroaches, which were also around, would have ended up ruling everything. That's the wild thing about this alternate timeline. We can sketch out possibilities, but the truth is, the story could have gone anywhere. Still, one thing's certain: mammals like us would have stayed in the shadows. In a dinosaur-dominated Earth, we'd be stuck as furry snacks scurrying in the dirt, praying to the gods of evolution for scraps. Humanity's rise depended entirely on that asteroid. Without it, the world would be a dinosaur's playground, and we'd be lucky to exist at all. So next time you complain about Mondays or taxes or the internet going down, remember, you only get to have those problems because a giant space rock ended the dinosaurs' reign. Kias, or unlucky dinosaurs, depends on how you look at it. But the real twist isn't just imagining what dinosaurs could have become, it's imagining what the world itself would look like with them still in charge. The ecosystems, the food webs, the very shape of life. And that's where we'll go next. A dinosaur Earth. Close your eyes and imagine Earth, but not the one you know. No buzzing cities, no cars, no humans complaining about Mondays. Instead, the soundscape is filled with thunderous footsteps, strange calls echoing through forests, and wings the size of buses casting shadows over rivers. That's the alternate timeline. An Earth where the asteroid politely missed, and dinosaurs kept their monopoly on the planet. Now, let's get one thing clear. Dinosaurs didn't just live in jungles. Forget the Jurassic Park vibe of perpetual rainforest. They were everywhere. Deserts, swamps, plains, even icy regions. If the asteroid had spared them, their ecosystems would have only gotten wilder. Imagine a Serengeti filled not with elephants and lions, but with towering sauropods stripping trees bare and raptors weaving through herds like feathered sharks at a buffet. Forests would have been shaped by these creatures in dramatic ways. Think of sauropods as Earth's original bulldozers. Their endless appetite for leaves meant entire landscapes were constantly being reshaped. They'd strip a forest to twigs, wander on, and let it regrow behind them. In fact, if dinosaurs had stuck around, today's forests might look totally alien, with trees adapted to withstand constant munching from skyscraper-sized herbivores, maybe tougher bark, higher branches, or bizarre chemical defenses to keep dino teeth at bay. Plants evolved too, and they were already racing to outsmart hungry mouths long before mammals got involved. And the oceans? Oh boy. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs ruled the seas, and if evolution had kept going, they might have spawned descendants to rival today's whales. Imagine a 100-foot reptilian super predator gliding beneath the waves, its jaws lined with teeth longer than your hand. The seas could have been a battlefield of giant marine reptiles, shark dynasties, and bizarre squid empires. Today we have dolphins doing tricks in aquariums. In that world we'd have mosasaurs launching themselves out of the water like missiles. Flying reptiles like pterosaurs would have pushed the limits of the sky. The largest species we know, Quetzalcoatlus, already had a wingspan rivaling a small plane. Give evolution a few million more years, and who knows, maybe sky cities of colossal pterosaurs riding thermal winds. Birds did survive the asteroid and are technically dinosaurs, but in this alternate world, their larger flying cousins would have kept the skies crowded. That cute little pigeon outside your window? In the dino timeline, it might have been a 200-pound predator dive-bombing your house. Now let's talk food webs. Predators shape prey, and prey shape predators. Raptors getting smarter would have forced herbivores to evolve sharper defenses. Imagine hadrosaurs with even louder crests. Herds using sonic booms to disorient attackers. Or ankylosaurs turning into living tanks, their armor evolving into spikes so sharp predators would think twice. Every move in this ecosystem would spark a counter-move. It's like an arms race, but instead of nukes, it's teeth, horns, and claws. And let's not forget insects. With forests constantly reshaped by giant grazers, bugs would have thrived. Picture dragonflies the size of crows buzzing around, or beetles evolving armor tough enough to withstand stomping feet. Insects are the underdogs of evolution, always finding ways to sneak in and adapt. If dinosaurs had stayed dominant, insects might have exploded into even stranger forms, thriving in the chaos of massive ecosystems. Climate would have played a huge role too. Earth's temperatures were shifting long before the asteroid, and dinosaurs were already adapting. Some species had feathers not just for display but for insulation. In a world without asteroid winter, these adaptations might have expanded. Feathered dinosaurs in snowy landscapes, massive herbivores lumbering across frozen plains. Forget polar bears, imagine polar raptors stalking through blizzards, their plumage camouflaging against the snow. What about mammals? Well, sorry, but we'd still be background extras, tiny nocturnal scavengers at best. Our ancestors were basically living in the dinosaur equivalent of crawl spaces, sneaking out at night to avoid being eaten. Without the asteroid reset button, we'd likely still be furry snack food. The idea of skyscrapers, smartphones, or YouTube documentaries, not even on the menu. The coolest part is how alien Earth itself would look. Imagine landscapes sculpted not by human cities but by dinosaur migration patterns. Valleys carved by herds of sauropods trampling through for centuries. Grasslands never even appearing since grasses were just starting to spread at the end of the Cretaceous. Instead, ferns and conifers might still dominate the world. Our familiar rolling fields of wheat or rice paddies? Gone. Agriculture wouldn't even exist because we wouldn't. This alternate Earth would be loud, dangerous, and breathtaking. Every horizon filled with giants. Every forest alive with strange sounds. Every ocean patrolled by leviathans. It would feel less like a planet we know and more like a fantasy world painted by nature itself. Beautiful, yes, but also terrifying. And yet, there's a strange comfort in imagining it. Because while it would have been awe-inspiring, it also reminds us just how fragile history is. One asteroid, one moment in deep time reshaped everything. Without it, dinosaurs would still rule. With it, mammals, and eventually us, got our chance. Evolution didn't plan it, fate didn't design it. It just happened. A cosmic coin toss, and here we are. So if dinosaurs had survived, Earth would still be magnificent, just not ours. And that realization sets up the next big question. What would civilization look like if evolution had gone down a different path? Could intelligence, technology, even culture have been written in dino DNA? Could dinosaurs have built civilizations? Okay, so here's a spicy question. If the asteroid had politely missed, would dinosaurs have eventually invented TikTok? Imagine a velociraptor in sunglasses making dance videos. That's either nightmare fuel or the peak of evolution, depending on your sense of humour. But let's slow down. We humans like to imagine intelligence as the end goal of evolution, as if every species is secretly working on its college applications. Nature doesn't work that way. Evolution isn't a ladder. It's more like a chaotic drunk guy doodling with DNA. Still, the idea of smart dinosaurs has haunted scientists and sci-fi fans for decades. Back in the 1980s, paleontologist Dale Russell actually proposed the concept of the Dinosauroid. He was studying a small, fast, bird-like predator called Troodon. This little guy had a brain-to-body ratio bigger than most dinosaurs, and Russell thought, give them a few million years and maybe they'd end up looking like us. He even had an artist sculpt a model, and that's when things got weird. The Dinosauroid looked suspiciously like a green alien from a 1950s B-movie. Upright posture, big bulging eyes, little fingers ready to build rocket ships. Basically, Russell had accidentally invented Area 51 merch. But let's step back. Could intelligence really have evolved in dinosaurs? Troodon is a good place to start. This dino had binocular vision, grasping hands, and enough smarts to possibly hunt in coordinated packs. If you squint, that's already a recipe for future intelligence. Eyes to focus, hands to manipulate, and brains to process teamwork. In our timeline, it didn't happen. They were wiped out. But in the alternate Earth, maybe one lineage of bird-like raptors would have kept getting smarter, generation after generation. Evolution doesn't care about should, it just tinkers until something works. Now, what would an intelligent dinosaur even look like? Probably not like Russell's lizard-alien hybrid. Evolution is lazy, doesn't redesign from scratch. If a raptor got smarter, it would still look like a raptor. Feathers, tail, bird-like body plan, they might walk upright like birds, not like humans. And instead of delicate hands like ours, they would probably still have claws. Imagine a society where the cutting tool is literally your hand. Need to slice veggies? No problem, just karate chop the salad. But intelligence isn't just about brains, it's about environment. Dinosaurs lived in a world dominated by giants. For a small species like Troodon to climb the evolutionary ladder, it would have to carve out a niche, maybe hunting at night, or learning to exploit new food sources. Over millions of years, that could encourage problem-solving, communication, maybe even tool use. After all, crows and parrots today, distant dino cousins, can solve puzzles, use sticks, and recognize themselves in mirrors. If a crow had hands, it might already have Wi-Fi. And here's where it gets trippy. If dinosaurs had developed intelligence, would they have gone down the same path we did? Fire, agriculture, cities, industry, maybe, but maybe not. Fire, for example, requires both curiosity and the right anatomy. A feathery raptor with clawed wings might not be the best at striking flint. Maybe they'd develop tech based on different principles. Instead of fire, maybe bioluminescence, harnessing glowing fungi, fireflies, or even breeding luminous plants. Instead of metal tools, perhaps specialized bone or keratin tools grown from their own biology. Civilization might not be steel skyscrapers, but glowing fungal towers shaped by living organisms. Think less New York City, more Panora from Avatar. And culture? Picture communication through dances, feather displays or color changes. Raptors already may have used body language to signal to each other. In an intelligent species, that could become a full-blown language, with shifting colors and gestures telling complex stories. Imagine a dino bard with feathers shimmering in neon patterns under moonlight. Beats our boring alphabet, honestly. But here's the brutal truth. Intelligence is expensive, big brains need lots of energy. We humans eat a ton of calories just to keep our squishy think meat running. For dinosaurs, especially in a volatile environment, evolution might have decided, nah, and stuck with claws and teeth. After all, nature doesn't care about philosophy. A sharp claw in the right place often beats a clever brain. That's why crocodiles, who barely changed in 200 million years, are still thriving. They found the eat, swim, repeat lifestyle and never needed calculus. Still, the possibility lingers. Maybe one branch of raptors could have evolved higher cognition. Maybe in the alternate timeline, they're the ones recording a YouTube documentary right now talking about what if the mammals took over? It flips the perspective. We think we're special, but maybe intelligence is just another evolutionary experiment, one that could have easily belonged to dinosaurs instead of us. This raises a cosmic question. If dinosaurs had evolved intelligence and culture, would they have made it to space? Would there be dinosaur astronauts, feathered and clawed, planting flags on the moon? Maybe, maybe not. But it highlights how fragile history is. Our existence isn't inevitable. It's built on a lucky asteroid impact and millions of small evolutionary accidents. Without that asteroid, we're just furry snacks in the shadows of dino cities. And honestly, that's humbling. We like to picture ourselves as the main characters of Earth's story. But in the bigger timeline, we're just the understudies who got called on stage after the stars were taken out by a cosmic stage light. Dinosaurs had the stage for 165 million years. We've been here for maybe 300,000. If intelligence were truly the goal, maybe it would have shown up long before us. Maybe it almost did. So could dinosaurs have built civilizations? Maybe, maybe not. But the fact that we can even ask the question is a reminder of how absurdly lucky we are. We got our chance because the universe rolled the dice and landed snake eyes on the dinosaurs. And that means the story of Earth and the story of us is less about destiny and more about chance. Dinosaurs and the evolutionary arms race. Picture a world where the dinosaurs keep winning. No asteroid, no fiery apocalypse, no sudden end credits rolling across the Cretaceous. Evolution just keeps pressing the add chaos button. What happens next? Welcome to the greatest arms race in history, not with tanks or nukes, but with claws, horns, teeth, and sheer absurdity. Let's start with the herbivores. Sauropods were already pushing the limits of size, stretching over 100 feet long, weighing as much as 14 African elephants. If they'd had another 66 million years to evolve, who knows how far that could have gone. Maybe we'd be looking at megasaurs, skyscraper-sized giants turning forests into salads with a single bite. Imagine a creature so tall its head disappears into clouds, like a living giraffe skyscraper combo. It sounds impossible, but sauropods had already cracked the code of size. Their bones were honeycombed like bird bones, making them light but strong. Their necks were essentially biological cranes. Give evolution more time and these giants might have redefined the meaning of too big to fail. But here's the catch. Whenever herbivores get bigger or tougher, predators have to keep up. That's the arms race. Tyrannosaurs were already apex predators, with bite forces that could crush a car. In the no-asteroid timeline, they might have evolved into even bigger nightmare machines. Picture a Super Rex with jaws like industrial shredders, legs built for speed, and senses so sharp it could hear your heartbeat from a mile away. We think lions are scary. Try hiding from a 15-ton murder lizard that can smell you through a thunderstorm. And it wouldn't stop there. Raptors, already smart and agile, could have gotten sharper, faster, and maybe even more social. Pack-hunting raptors with advanced coordination? That's like a wolf pack with knives strapped to their hands and a group chat that never sleeps. They might have evolved into the tacticians of the dinosaur world, hunting not with brute force but with strategy. You'd see herbivores evolving tighter herds, defense formations, even cooperative babysitting systems, all because the raptors kept leveling up. Meanwhile, armor would have gotten ridiculous. Ankylosaurs already looked like living tanks with clubs for tails. In a few million years, maybe those tails would evolve into spiked maces, or even Morning Star-style wrecking balls. Triceratops already had horns sharp enough to punch through a predator's ribcage. In the alternate timeline, their descendants might sport horn racks so elaborate they'd make a Viking jealous. Some might even evolve bone shields or giant crests designed to deflect bites. Herbivores wouldn't just be prey. They'd be walking fortresses. This kind of evolutionary back and forth can get absurdly creative. Just look at nature today. Gazelles evolved to run faster. Cheetahs evolved to run even faster. And suddenly you've got a high-speed chase scene straight out of an action movie. Now scale that up to 10-ton predators and 50-ton prey. Earth would basically become the set of Fast and Furious Jurassic Drift. And don't forget the oceans. Mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and giant sharks were already patrolling the seas. In this alternate timeline, marine reptiles might have evolved into even stranger leviathans. Imagine an ocean dominated by serpentine predators the length of subway trains, fighting for dominance with squid the size of buildings. Today, the blue whale is the largest creature ever, but in Dino Earth, that title might belong to a reptilian super predator with jaws wide enough to swallow a school bus whole. The skies would have been just as chaotic. Pterosaurs like Quetzalcoatlus already rivaled airplanes in size. With more time, they might have evolved into sky titans, patrolling air currents and dive-bombing prey like feathered bombers. Birds did okay in our timeline, but in this one, they'd be side characters compared to their giant cousins. Imagine a flock of 20-foot winged pterosaurs circling above, turning the skies into a battlefield of claws and beaks. You'd never look at a seagull the same way again. Now, what about plants? Because let's be real, plants are always in the game too. When herbivores evolved to eat more, plants evolved to fight back. Maybe Earth's forests would be filled with bizarre defensive adaptations, trees with razor-sharp leaves, toxic sap, or even spiky trunks designed to keep sauropod mouths away. Some plants today only exist because they co-evolved with ancient herbivores. In Dino Earth, the arms race between teeth and leaves might have created forests straight out of a sci-fi novel, with monstrous flowers releasing knockout gases or vines that taste like battery acid. And let's not ignore the bugs. Insects thrive when ecosystems explode with plant life. A dinosaur-dominated Earth might mean even more insect diversity, with giant dragonflies, armoured beetles, and maybe even hive minds of super ants shaping the ground beneath dinosaur feet. You think mosquitoes are annoying today? Imagine them evolving to pierce sauropod hide. Suddenly humans hiding in caves wouldn't be the only snack on the menu. But here's the dark side. Arms races don't just escalate forever. They create fragile systems. When everything is evolving to be bigger, tougher, or deadlier, it becomes harder to sustain balance. If predators get too strong, prey populations crash. If herbivores get too numerous, ecosystems collapse. Earth in the dino timeline might have been a place of constant boom and bust cycles, with mass die-offs followed by evolutionary rebounds. The planet could have been even more unstable than it already is, nature playing with fire on an epic scale. And here's where the existential twist comes in. We think of ourselves as the product of clever brains and innovation, but really, we're just another outcome of an arms race, one that happened to reset after the asteroid. Dinosaurs had their own arms race for millions of years, building monsters of bone and muscle, but in the end, the greatest weapon of all turned out to be chance. A random rock from space tipped the balance and gave mammals, and eventually us, a chance to play. In the alternate Earth, though, no reset, just an endless cycle of bigger, sharper and stranger. A planet that looks more like a prehistoric fantasy painting than anything we'd recognize. Beautiful, terrifying, and ultimately unstable. Dinosaurs versus climate and Earth changes. The asteroid is gone in this timeline, dinosaurs survive, but survival isn't just about dodging giant space rocks, it's about handling Earth itself. And Earth, as it turns out, is a drama queen. Our planet never stops changing the stage. Continents drift, climates swing between hothouse and icehouse, volcanoes erupt like teenagers with acne, and oceans rise and fall as if they're trying on outfits for a date. Dinosaurs would have had to keep up with all of it. First, let's talk continents. At the time of the asteroid impact, the world was already breaking up from the supercontinent Pangaea into smaller landmasses. South America was drifting away, Africa was cruising toward Europe, and India was on a road trip toward Asia at terrifying speed. Fast forward millions of years without the extinction reset, and dinosaurs would have spread across these new continents like enthusiastic backpackers with no return ticket. We'd likely see isolated ecosystems, with dinosaur species evolving separately in dramatic ways. Think kangaroos in Australia. But instead of kangaroos, it's a bizarre new line of horned sauropods found only in South America. Isolation breeds creativity and evolution. If dinosaurs had stayed around, each continent might have developed its own unique lineup. North America could have become the land of mega raptors, evolving intelligence and speed. Africa might have kept its giant predators like Spinosaurus, turning them into even stranger fish-hunting monsters. Meanwhile, Antarctica, once warm but later freezing, could have given rise to feathered, cold-resistant dinosaurs with insulating plumage thicker than a winter coat. Picture a penguin, but with claws and a velociraptor's personality. Suddenly ice fishing gets way more dangerous. And then there's climate. Dinosaurs thrived in the warm greenhouse climate of the Mesozoic, but Earth wasn't planning to stay cozy forever. Over the next 66 million years, There were ice ages, global cooling events, and dramatic volcanic winters. Dinosaurs would have had to adapt or die trying. Luckily, many already had a head start. Feathered raptors, perfect insulation, small, adaptable omnivores, ready to pivot diets when things got rough, sauropods. Okay, maybe not so ready. Lugging around 100 tons in the middle of an ice age is basically nature's version of trying to run a marathon in a sleeping bag. Some giants might have shrunk down over time, evolving into smaller, more energy-efficient forms, mini sauropods the size of giraffes instead of skyscrapers. Still huge, but manageable when plants get scarce. Speaking of volcanoes, oh boy. Earth's history is basically a highlight reel of volcanic chaos. Massive eruptions like the Deccan Traps, which were already happening around the time of the asteroid, released enough gas to change the global climate. Without extinction, dinosaurs would have had to ride out these apocalyptic events. Some might have adapted to toxic environments, evolving better lungs to handle sulfur-rich air. Others could have migrated to safer zones, pushing evolutionary creativity as they spread across the planet. Imagine a line of dinosaurs evolving specifically to thrive in volcanic landscapes, feeding on heat-loving plants, nesting in geothermal hot springs. It's like nature building its own Jurassic version of Mordor. The oceans would have changed too. Over the last 66 million years, sea levels rose and fell dramatically. Inland seas disappeared, new coastlines formed, and entire ecosystems drowned or resurfaced. Dinosaurs near coasts would have had to adapt to wetlands, swamps, and shifting rivers. Some species might have gone semi-aquatic, like Spinosaurus was already experimenting with. Maybe in this alternate Earth, we'd have sleek, croc-like dinosaurs ruling river systems, sliding into a niche we never filled. Forget hippos. The deadliest thing in a river might have been a dino with fish-grabbing jaws and speedboat energy. Now let's get existential for a second. Earth doesn't care about stability. Climate swings, continents crash, mountains rise. Species either adapt or get erased. Dinosaurs were survivors. They'd already lasted over 165 million years before the asteroid. Compare that to us. Homo sapiens have been around for only about 300,000 years. We're basically toddlers with Wi-Fi. Dinosaurs, by sheer persistence, might have survived all the drama Earth threw at them. They'd evolve new forms, shrink, grow, feather up, armor down. Evolution is a tinkerer, and dinosaurs were some of its favourite projects. But would they have thrived in ice ages the way mammals eventually did? That's the tricky part. Mammals had the advantage of fur, fat layers, and flexible diets. Dinosaurs, though, weren't clueless. Many small ones were warm-blooded, or partially so. Some had feathers for insulation. And let's not forget, birds, the only surviving dinosaurs, are champions at handling extreme environments. Penguins thrive in Antarctica. Chickens thrive in, well, everywhere. If their ancestors had stuck around in full force, they might have been just as versatile. In fact, the alternate timeline Earth might look less like a dino planet frozen in time and more like a constant remix. New lineages adapting to deserts, tundras, jungles, mountains, some evolving smaller and faster, others bigger and stranger. We might have ended up with desert raptors adapted to sprinting across dunes, or mountain-dwelling herbivores with sure-footed legs like goats. Evolution doesn't stop, it improvises. Dinosaurs, given more time, would have improvised in ways that make our imaginations look boring. And here's the twist. While dinosaurs would have faced climate chaos, mammals wouldn't have been totally erased. They'd still be there, scurrying in the shadows, waiting. But in this version of Earth, they'd never get the spotlight. No matter how much the continents shifted or the ice sheets grew, dinosaurs would have kept bouncing back, reinventing themselves to fit the new world. Evolution is cruel, but it rewards persistence. Dinosaurs had already proven they were the long-haul champions, so would climate and Earth's chaos have stopped them? Probably not. The asteroid was a once-in-a-billion-years bullet. Everything else they might have survived. They'd reshape, adapt, and dominate. The Earth of today might still belong to them, a living, breathing planet sculpted not by human cities but by the endless experiments of dinosaur evolution, the secret social lives of dinosaurs. Dinosaurs weren't just giant lizards stomping around like angry bulldozers. They were living, breathing creatures with instincts, bonds, and behaviours, and if the asteroid never came, their social worlds might have evolved into something even stranger, richer, and maybe, in a weird way, familiar to us. Let's start with what we know. Fossils tell us dinosaurs lived in groups, cared for their young, and even coordinated hunts. Trackways of hadrosaurs show herds moving together like wildebeests. Nests full of eggs suggest parental care. Raptors, with their sharp claws and brains bigger than most other dinos, probably hunted in packs. In other words, they weren't just loners. They had societies. And societies, given millions of extra years, can get complicated. Picture herds of sauropods, the massive long-necked giants, moving across a continent like slow-motion tsunamis. Already their size alone offered protection. But what if their societies became more structured? Maybe younger sauropods would have stuck together in teen groups, while older, experienced giants led migrations, almost like elephants today, passing down roots and survival knowledge. Over time, this could have evolved into sophisticated communication systems, deep rumbles, body signals, or even colour changes in their skin. A sauropod language that echoed across the plains. Predators would have needed teamwork too. Imagine packs of raptors generations after generations refining cooperation. Wolves can hunt down animals much bigger than themselves. Why not raptors? They already had sharp claws, keen senses and feathers. Over millions of years their brains might have expanded, giving rise to even more coordinated strategies. They could have evolved something like proto-culture, teaching hunting tricks, sharing kills, maybe even ritualistic displays like wolves or lions do. If that sounds far-fetched, just remember, crows and parrots, both dino descendants, can recognize faces, solve puzzles, and even hold grudges. Intelligence was already baked into the family tree. Now let's talk love lives, because evolution never skips romance. Many dinosaurs already had crests, frills, horns and feathers, likely used for courtship. That means sexual selection was in play. The flashier, louder or stronger you were, the better your chances. Given millions of years more, this could have gone wild. Imagine sauropods with even more dramatic neck crests, or raptors with vibrant feather displays rivaling peacocks. Dinosaurs might have turned into walking art projects, each generation cranking up the flair. And just like birds today, courtship dances and songs might have become part of the social scene. Picture a 20-foot raptor strutting with iridescent feathers, doing a dance to impress a mate, terrifying and fabulous at the same time. But social lives aren't all romance and teamwork. There's also conflict. Dinosaurs fought over territory, mates, dominance. Fossils show bite marks healed on bones, horns locked in combat, and tails used like whips. If they survived, these conflicts might have evolved into ritualized battles, like deer antler fights or gorilla chest beating. The biggest, most dangerous species might have developed ways to show off strength without always killing each other. Displays of seize, roars, or even colour flashes could have become the standard. Nature often prefers survival over constant slaughter, and dinosaurs might have found balance between war and peace. Here's something fun. Parental care. Birds are famously doting parents, and we found evidence that some dinosaurs like Maiasaura cared for their hatchlings. In an asteroid-free world, parental strategies could have expanded. We might have seen dino daycares, groups of adults watching over communal nests, protecting dozens of young together. Predators too might have raised offspring in groups, teaching them hunting skills over years. Imagine a pride of raptors, not unlike a pride of lions, raising the next generation with teamwork and discipline. That's not just survival, that's the foundation of culture. And speaking of culture, let's take a leap. Birds, the only surviving dinosaurs, show signs of play, learning, and even tool use. Crows can bend wires to make hooks. Parrots can mimic human words. If non-avian dinosaurs had survived, intelligence might not have been rare. Pack-hunting raptors, social herbivores, or even semi-aquatic dinos could have developed behaviours passed down through generations, traditions. One group might have learned to hunt fish in rivers, another to stalk prey at night. Over time, that's culture, shared knowledge, not just instincts. Now here's a thought that might give you chills. What if some dinosaur lineages started competing with mammals not just for food, but for intelligence? In our timeline, mammals evolved bigger brains partly because there was an empty ecological niche after the extinction. But in the alternate world, raptors might have filled that niche. Bigger brains, sharper communication, smarter cooperation. Could we have ended up with intelligent dino civilizations instead of humans? Maybe not building skyscrapers, but forming structured societies, complex hunting rituals, even early problem-solving behaviors. It's not impossible. After all, intelligence evolved multiple times across species on Earth. And let's not forget the emotional side. Elephants mourn their dead. Dolphins play for fun. Birds form lifelong pairs. If dinosaurs had continued, they might have developed emotional depth too. Herds protecting injured members, raptors forming lifelong hunting bonds, parents grieving lost hatchlings. The idea of dinosaurs as cold, brainless monsters is outdated. They were alive, adapting, feeling. And with more time, their social worlds might have rivaled anything mammals have built. In this alternate Earth, walking into a forest might mean stumbling onto a herd of brightly coloured ceratopsians, engaged in a social drama of rival males and protective mothers. Crossing a river might mean dodging packs of semi-aquatic predators coordinating like crocodiles with teamwork. And hearing the night would mean not silence, but a chorus. Booming sauropod calls, raptor chirps, display songs of feathered creatures announcing their presence, a living orchestra of dinosaur communication. It's strange to think, but if the asteroid never came, maybe Earth today would feel less like a human planet with birds as a reminder of the past, and more like a dinosaur planet, with mammals still waiting in the wings, never quite taking centre stage. Their societies would have been rich, diverse, and alien, but maybe, just maybe, familiar in ways we recognise. Because at the core of it, survival isn't just claws and teeth. It's bonds, cooperation, learning, and connection. Dinosaurs already had the blueprint. They just ran out of time. Dinosaurs versus mammals. Would we even exist? Imagine pressing rewind on Earth's tape and letting it play again, except this time the asteroid misses. Dinosaurs keep stomping, roaring, and evolving, while mammals remain those furry little potato creatures hiding in the shadows. The big question is, in that world, would humans, or anything like us, ever show up? Spoiler, it's complicated and probably not great for us. Let's start with the obvious. During the age of dinosaurs, mammals already existed, but they were basically the underdogs of the Mesozoic. Most were tiny, nocturnal insect eaters scurrying around like nervous snacks with legs. They survived by staying small, hiding in burrows, and coming out at night when the dinosaurs were asleep or distracted. Think of mammals back then as the shy roommate who never leaves their room because the house is full of angry bodybuilders who might eat them. Why didn't mammals get bigger sooner? Because dinosaurs had a monopoly on all the prime real estate. You wanted to be a top predator? T-Rex has that role locked down. Want to be a big plant eater? Nope. Sauropods and hadrosaurs already signed that lease. Every niche, from armoured tanks to speedy runners to semi-aquatic predators, was already taken by Team Dinosaur. Mammals had no room to stretch out, so they stayed small, scrappy, and mostly irrelevant. But then the asteroid hit, wiped out the big guys, and mammals finally got their shot at glory. Within a few million years, they ballooned into giant sloths, our saber-toothed cats, whales, and eventually us. The apocalypse cleared the board. Without that cosmic reset, mammals might have stayed background extras forever. Now let's flip the timeline. The asteroid misses. Dinosaurs keep ruling. Could mammals still somehow rise? Maybe, but it would have been way harder. Evolution loves to fill empty niches, but with dinosaurs alive, there just wouldn't have been many vacancies. Imagine trying to open a coffee shop in a town where every corner already has a Starbucks. You're not going to dominate the market, you're just going to get crushed by the competition. Even if mammals found a niche, it probably would have stayed small and weird. Some could have become bat-like creatures in forests, squirrel-like climbers, or mole-like diggers underground. Sure, they'd survive, but not so much. They'd be stuck as side characters in a dinosaur-centered world. And here's the brutal truth. Big-brained mammals like primates probably never would have evolved. Our ancestors got their start in the wake of dinosaurs' extinction, when forests regrew and niches opened up. If dinos had been hogging all the resources, primates might have never left the small bug-eater stage, which means no apes, which means no humans, which means no TikTok. Okay, maybe that last one isn't so bad. But wait, there's a twist. Not all mammals were completely helpless during dino times. Some were surprisingly resourceful. Fossils show mammals eating small dinosaurs, competing for food, and even evolving into glider-like forms. Give them tens of millions more years, and who knows? Maybe a lineage of clever nocturnal mammals could have carved out a space. Think raccoon-level intelligence at first, sneaking around the shadows, nibbling on eggs, stealing opportunities. Over time, evolution might have gifted them bigger brains, but still they'd be dodging raptors and ducking under sauropod legs the whole way. Their path to dominance would have been like trying to win a race where the starting line is chained to a brick wall. Meanwhile, dinosaurs weren't just sitting still. They were already evolving in fascinating directions. Some were getting smaller, faster, and more bird-like. Others were experimenting with weird armor, crests, or feathers. Raptors were already brainy for reptiles. If intelligence was going to blossom, it might have happened in them before mammals ever had the chance. Imagine a parallel Earth where instead of humans building cities, you get feathered raptor civilizations, using tools, hunting in coordinated armies, and maybe even farming. That's not science fiction. That's just evolution playing a different card. Now let's imagine if mammals and dinos coexisted for longer. Could there have been a balance? Possibly. Think of today's world. We have elephants and lions and whales dominating certain niches, while humans still rose to the top. Maybe mammals could have thrived in the margins, in forests, caves, mountains, or oceans, where dinosaurs didn't specialize. Aquatic mammals like whales and seals might have had a shot if marine reptiles eventually went extinct. Tree-dwelling mammals might have flourished in dense forests where small size was an advantage. There's a slim chance primates could have emerged in the shadows, waiting for their moment. But here's the catch. They'd need a window of opportunity. Evolution doesn't hand out dominance for free. It takes accidents, disasters, and lucky breaks. If dinosaurs never went extinct, that window might have never opened. Evolutionary history is basically a series of cosmic coin flips, and in this version of Earth, the coin landed on sorry mammals, better luck, next planet. So the sobering truth? Without the asteroid, we probably wouldn't be here. No humans, no civilizations, no wondering about dinosaurs, because dinosaurs would still be out there doing their thing, it would still be their planet. And mammals, at best, would be the understudies forever waiting for a stage that never opens. But before you feel too bad for Team Mammal, remember, we only got here because of a freak accident. Our entire existence hangs on a rock that just happened to hit at just the right time. If it had passed by a few thousand miles off course, we'd still be furry little snacks scurrying around in the shadows of raptors. The asteroid didn't just change Earth, it made us possible, which means, in a weird way, we owe our existence to the very extinction we mourn. And that brings us to the uncomfortable philosophical question. If dinosaurs had survived, maybe they would have become the dominant intelligent life form. Not mammals, not us. Maybe the universe wouldn't miss us, because something else would have risen instead. In the end, Earth doesn't really care who's in charge. It just keeps spinning, reshuffling the deck, letting evolution experiment with whoever's left standing. So in a world where the asteroid missed, dinosaurs might still rule the land. Mammals would be backup singers at best, never headliners. And humans, we'd be nothing more than a possibility erased by a single cosmic near-miss. Dinosaurs and the climate, could they rule forever? Here's a hot take. Even if the asteroid had missed, dinosaurs might not have been immortal rulers of Earth. Nature has a funny way of throwing curveballs. The planet doesn't like stability, is basically a drama queen that can't go 5 minutes without flipping the table. Climate shifts, volcanic chaos, and continents doing the slowest game of musical chairs in history. All of that still would have happened, and dinosaurs would have had to adapt or get wrecked. Let's rewind to the late Cretaceous, around 66 million years ago. The asteroid gets a near miss, sails past Earth, and everyone breathes a sigh of relief. Dinosaurs carry on, but the world they lived in wasn't exactly a permanent paradise. Volcanoes in India, known today as the Deccan Traps, were already belching out ridiculous amounts of lava and gas. Think of it as Earth vaping uncontrollably for hundreds of thousands of years. Those eruptions pumped carbon dioxide and sulfur into the air, warming and cooling the planet in unpredictable swings. Even without the asteroid, that climate stress was like pulling the rug out from under dinosaurs' feet. Some species might have handled it fine. Sauropods, the massive long necks, were basically walking food factories. They could chow down on a buffet of plants, so as long as something green survived, they'd manage. Raptors, with their agility and sharp thinking, might have rolled with the changes too. But the picky eaters, the specialists, like certain horned dinosaurs that depended on specific plants, would have struggled. Evolution doesn't reward being picky in a crisis. It rewards being scrappy. Now add continental drift into the mix. The Earth's land masses were slowly splitting apart, shaping the continents we know today. That meant dinosaurs living in once connected regions suddenly found themselves cut off, evolving in isolation. It's like being stuck on different Wi-Fi networks. No more updates, no more mixing of DNA. This could have created bizarre new species adapted to extreme climates. Imagine polar raptors with thick feather coats, desert ceratopsians with heat-reflecting frills, or sauropods in swampy floodplains, shrinking down into dwarf forms to survive. In other words, dinosaur diversity would have exploded, but survival wouldn't have been guaranteed for everyone. Here's where it gets interesting. The Cenozoic, the era that mammals took over after the extinction, saw huge climate swings, ice ages, hothouse periods, rising seas. Dinosaurs, if still around, would have had to weather all of that. Could they? Birds, the one lineage of dinosaurs that did survive, handled those shifts just fine. Penguins live in Antarctica. Ostriches handle deserts. Hawks thrive everywhere in between. That suggests dinosaurs had the evolutionary flexibility to pull it off. But surviving doesn't always mean dominating. Some groups might have shrunk in importance while others rose. For example, giant sauropods might have eventually vanished anyway. Why? Because the world was cooling, forests were shrinking, and open grasslands were spreading. And guess who thrives in grasslands? Mammals. Grazing, running, small to medium-sized mammals could have carved out niches even in a dino-dominated world. Not as the overlords, but as sneaky background players slowly building momentum. Think of them as the quiet rebels planning a revolution that may or may not ever come. But what about the big predators? Tyrannosaurs, abelisaurs, and other apex hunters were like Earth's military dictators, huge, powerful, and terrifying. Climate change might have knocked them down a peg. With shifting ecosystems, smaller, faster, and more adaptable hunters, like the raptors, might have stolen their crown. Apex predators don't stay kings forever. They're always one environmental hiccup away from losing the throne. And let's not forget sea levels. In the Cretaceous, oceans were high, flooding continents with shallow seas. When those waters receded, coastlines changed, ecosystems collapsed, and food chains had to reboot. Marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs, the sea monsters of the time, were already vulnerable. In a no-asteroid timeline, many might have gone extinct anyway, opening the door for, you guessed it, mammals to invade the oceans eventually. Not whales, at least not yet, but small, seal-like or otter-like forms sneaking in. The ocean is always hungry for new tenants, so would dinosaurs have ruled forever? Probably not in the same way they did for the 150 million years before the asteroid. They would have splintered, diversified, and adapted to new environments. Some would have shrunk, others would have grown feathers, some might have even experimented with intelligence. But ruling unchallenged? That era was already wobbling. The asteroid just slammed the door shut faster. Now let's spice this up with a thought experiment. Imagine Earth's ice ages rolling in while dinosaurs are still around. Picture giant woolly ceratopsians trudging through snow, their frills covered in frost while feathered raptors hunt across tundra landscapes. Dinosaurs with built-in down jackets thriving in blizzards like fluffy murder machines. Mammals would have been there too, but they'd still be scurrying, trying not to get eaten. The dinosaurs might have kept their dominance longer than we think, but even then, the cold would have forced them to evolve in strange new directions. And here's the big twist. Climate pressure might have actually pushed some dinosaurs toward greater intelligence. Harsh environments reward problem solving. When food is scarce, the smartest survivors get ahead. Maybe raptors would have become more cunning hunters, or herding dinosaurs more cooperative. Over millions of years, that could have built the foundation for dinosaur societies that looked a lot like early mammal societies in our real timeline. Evolution might have just skipped us and said, okay, let's give intelligence to the feathered guys this time. The asteroid didn't invent change. Earth was already changing, already unpredictable, already throwing curveballs. Dinosaurs were tough, insanely tough. But forever is a long time. They might have reigned another 10, 20, or even 30 million years, but eventually climate, continents, or sheer bad luck would have rewritten the script. The question isn't whether dinosaurs could survive, it's who would have taken their place when the next crisis came. And spoiler, in a no-asteroid world, it might not have been us. So if the asteroid missed, dinosaurs might have ruled longer, maybe even thrived in new ways. But Earth itself was the ultimate game master, reshuffling the deck no matter what, and eventually even the mightiest rulers get a plot twist. Dinosaurs in the modern world, would we meet them? Okay, so let's play the ultimate what if. The asteroid misses. Dinosaurs keep evolving for tens of millions of years. Climate shifts, continents drift, and mammals scurry in the shadows. Fast forward to now, the year 2025, you're scrolling on your phone, maybe sipping a coffee, when suddenly your newsfeed casually drops. Local government warns of raptor packs in downtown traffic. Welcome to the weirdest alternate timeline ever, an Earth where humans and dinosaurs coexist. First off, the world itself would look very different. Ecosystems wouldn't just be lions, tigers, and bears. Instead, you'd have ceratopsians grazing in the suburbs like living bulldozers with horns, sauropods moving through forests like mobile apartment complexes, and raptors treating city streets like a skate park designed exclusively for murder. The food chain wouldn't have left much room for us. Humanity would have had to fight tooth and nail just to exist. Could we have domesticated dinosaurs the way we did horses, cows and dogs? Maybe, but let's be real, some dinos would have been absolute nightmare fuel. Imagine trying to saddle up a triceratops for travel, only for it to decide you looked at it funny, and suddenly your entire farm is a crater. Raptors? Too clever, too aggressive. T-Rex? Yeah, good luck with that. But smaller species, like certain feathered dinosaurs or hadrosaurs, could have been candidates. Who wouldn't want a herd of domesticated hadrosaurs for meat, hides or transport? It would have been like Jurassic Park meets Old MacDonald's farm. Cities would have been built differently too. You wouldn't just worry about earthquakes or floods, you would need defences against predators. Imagine medieval castles, but designed with anti-raptor moats and triceratops-proof gates. Even in modern times, skyscrapers might be reinforced not just for wind, but for the off chance a hungry sauropod leaned too close. Our architecture would have evolved alongside the dinosaurs, shaped not just by nature, but by the need to not get stomped on daily. And what about warfare? Horses revolutionized human history. Dinosaurs would have rewritten it completely. Armies riding armored ceratopsians into battle, raptors unleashed like living war dogs, air units with giant pterosaurs. Forget tanks and drones, the battlefield would have been a nightmare of teeth, claws and wings. Human technology would have had to leapfrog just to keep up. Gunpowder and bows might have arrived earlier, not because of human rivalry, but because neighbouring village just tamed raptors and now we're screwed. Evolutionary arms race, but with actual dinosaurs. But let's not get too grim. Some dinos might have ended up as companions instead of enemies. Birds today show loyalty, intelligence, and even affection, traits they inherited from their dinosaur ancestors. Smaller feathered species could have been tamed, maybe even becoming proto-dogs. Imagine, instead of tossing a stick for a golden retriever, you're throwing it for a fluffy little raptor that sprints back, tail wagging, eyes gleaming with just a hint of bloodlust. Cute, terrifying, and probably illegal in most apartment buildings. Of course, humanity's rise in this world wouldn't have been guaranteed. If dinosaurs had stayed too dominant, maybe primates never would have evolved at all. But let's give ourselves the benefit of the doubt. Somehow, some way, we crawled out of the evolutionary margins. What would daily life be like? Agriculture would have been harder, with massive herbivores trampling fields. Hunting would have been riskier when every forest trail had the potential to end with a velociraptor ambush. But humans are stubborn. We adapt, we invent, we overcompensate. Over thousands of years, maybe we would have carved out safe zones, learned to work with some dinosaurs, and defended against others. And here's a thought. Maybe dinosaurs and humans could have developed a kind of balance. Think of how wolves became dogs, a relationship of mutual benefit. Raptors, smart and social, could have been trained to hunt alongside us. Ceratopsians might have been used as living tractors, ploughing fields and hauling loads. Sauropods, maybe not pets, but think of them like living infrastructure. Walking shade, water storage, their massive bodies holding resources, maybe even natural barriers protecting settlements from predators. It sounds insane, but evolution already gave us camels, elephants, and oxen. Dinosaurs might have just been the next level. But here's where the existential dread kicks in. What if dinosaurs never gave us the chance? Maybe humans never reached the top because intelligence evolved elsewhere first. A lineage of raptors could have gotten smarter, forming their own societies, using tools, maybe even creating fire. Imagine feathered cities, with structures built from bones and wood, raptors living in cooperative packs not unlike human tribes. In that world, we wouldn't be the dominant species. We'd be the weird mammals hanging around the edges while intelligent dinosaurs ran the show. To them, we'd just be background wildlife. Even scarier. What if dinosaurs and humans both reached intelligence at the same time? two rival civilizations, one mammal, one reptile-bird hybrid sharing Earth. Cooperation, maybe. Competition, definitely. Wars fought not just with technology but with biology, humans building weapons while dinosaurs weaponized their own bodies. A cold war of species waiting to see who blinks first. Now picture the environment itself. Modern Earth with dinosaurs wouldn't look like our world. Forests would have been gnawed down by massive herbivores. Grasslands might never have spread as widely, since many dinosaurs preferred forests and wetlands. Our planet might have stayed greener, swampier, more prehistoric looking. The world we think of as natural, savannas, prairies, tundras, might never have formed the same way, which means our civilizations, agriculture, and entire history could have unfolded on a completely alien Earth. And yet here's the philosophical twist. Maybe dinosaurs surviving would have prevented us entirely. Maybe primates never rise, humans never build cities, and civilization is skipped altogether. Or maybe, if humans do appear, we live alongside them, forever humbled by the fact that we're not the only big brains in the room. Evolution doesn't play favourites, it just experiments. And in a no-asteroid timeline, we wouldn't be Earth's chosen experiment, at least not alone. So would we meet dinosaurs in the modern world? In one version, yes, as farmers, warriors, and maybe even friends. In another, no, because dinosaurs would have claimed the throne of intelligence long before we had the chance. Either way, Earth today would have looked unrecognizable. Cities built like fortresses, skies filled with wings, streets echoing with roars instead of car horns. A world where humans weren't the default rulers, but just another species trying to survive in the shadow of giants. Could dinosaurs invent technology? So we've imagined dinosaurs surviving into the modern era. They've survived climate chaos, evolved complex social behaviours, and maybe even outsmarted mammals. But here's the real brain bender. Could they have invented technology? Could dinosaurs, feathered or scaly, have built civilizations like humans did? At first glance, it sounds absurd. Most of the dinosaurs we picture, massive sauropods, armoured stegosaurs, horned ceratopsians, don't exactly scream fine motor skills. A triceratops trying to hold a hammer? Comically impossible. A T-Rex, famously cursed with tiny arms, would have failed spectacularly at crafting a spear. But intelligence doesn't always need hands. Birds, our closest living dinosaur relatives, prove that claws aren't everything. Crows and parrots manipulate tools, solve puzzles, and plan for the future. They are the ultimate proof that a small brain paired with dexterity can achieve amazing things. Now imagine a raptor lineage, small to medium-sized, smart, social, and feathered. Evolution gives them not just bigger brains but nimble hands, maybe elongated fingers or opposable claws. Suddenly, they are capable of precise movements, picking up objects, shaping sticks, even making basic tools. The first stone tools might have looked primitive, but intelligence has a way of compounding over generations. One raptor shows another how to chip a stone, the next generation perfects it. And over millions of years, a culture of tool use could emerge. Fire is trickier. Humans discovered it by accident. Lightning strikes, volcanoes, friction, and learned to control it. Dinosaurs wouldn't have matched our biology, but they might have observed natural flames, learned to cook, and harness heat in other ways. Perhaps in a semi-intelligent theropod species, careful observation leads to experimentation. Using fire could revolutionize their society, cooking food, warding off predators, shaping materials. Over millennia, fire becomes central to their culture, a foundation for technology just like it was for humans. With fire comes architecture. Nesting behaviors in dinosaurs suggest some species already built structures for survival. Communal nests, protective shelters, or even burrows show planning and environmental manipulation. Amplify intelligence, and suddenly these nests evolve into complex dwellings. Cities might rise in forest canopies, riverbanks, or volcanic plateaus, places that suit dinosaur physiques and ecosystems. Structures would be organic, curved, sprawling, and nature-influenced design, but functional. No straight lines, just flowing, efficient layouts that a bipedal or semi-bipedal species could navigate. Social complexity accelerates progress. Dinosaur societies, especially raptor-like species, already demonstrate coordination. Hunting, caring for young, territorial defense. These are all forms of teamwork that form the backbone of early civilization. Language, signals, vocalizations, visual cues, and perhaps even symbolic art could emerge. Imagine a raptor painting cliff walls with pigment to mark territory, record events, or impress mates. That's not just behavior, that's culture, and culture is the fuel of technological evolution. Now consider resource management. Humans tamed animals and agriculture to stabilize food. Dinosaurs might have done something similar, but on a different scale. Herbivorous species could have domesticated plants, protecting groves, pruning trees, even managing water sources. Predatory species could have optimized hunting strategies, coordinating attacks and storing food. In a world with bigger species, technology might not have been miniaturized like ours. Giant tools, massive constructions, and even bioengineering using smaller dinosaurs as laborers could have been the norm. Here's a wild thought. Aviation. Dinosaurs already had feathers, wings, and gliding capabilities in some lineages. Intelligence plus aerodynamic evolution could lead to early flight experiments. Small feathered species might perfect gliding, then develop structures to extend range. Imagine dinosaur engineers experimenting with kites or primitive gliders, learning lift and drag before humans ever figured it out. Flight could have been dinosaur-driven, literally taking to the skies to expand civilization. And warfare? Of course it would be different. Dinosaurs are physically formidable. Weapons might not have been sticks and stones. They'd combine natural abilities with crafted tools. Think raptors wielding sharpened bone tools, ceratopsians used as battering machines, and sauropods as living towers. Siege tactics, forget catapults. Imagine coordinating massive herbivores to crush fortifications. If intelligence emerged first in dinosaurs, humans in this timeline might have never advanced beyond background players, outmatched not just physically, but intellectually. Economics, trade, and culture would also evolve in fascinating ways. Dinosaurs might trade resources, food, nesting materials, feathers, pigments. Art could reflect status and power. A theropod's feathers dyed with pigments, or a ceratopsian's frill decorated for ceremonial purposes. Music, sounding horns, rumbles, or wing vibrations could create symphonies. Intelligence doesn't need hands, it just needs communication and innovation, and dinosaurs already had both in some lineages. So yes, in a timeline where the asteroid missed, it's plausible that dinosaurs could have invented technology, not exactly like humans, who would be adapted to their bodies, minds, and environment, but functional, complex, and civilization building. A world dominated by intelligent dinosaurs might have skyscrapers woven from trees, cities in canopies, and fleets of gliding species patrolling the skies. Fire, tools, art, and agriculture might have arisen in forms we can barely imagine, all without a single human ever existing. And here's the philosophical kicker. Intelligence isn't guaranteed to be mammal exclusive. Evolution experiments. Birds, the living dinosaur legacy, show us that intelligence is flexible. Given millions more years and the extinction-free timeline, dinosaurs could have outpaced mammals entirely. We like to think humans are the inevitable peak, but in this alternate world, dinosaurs could have been the architects of Earth, shaping technology, culture, and civilization in ways no mammal could compete with. Dinosaurs in the oceans, giants of the deep. When most people imagine dinosaurs, they picture towering T-Rex or long-necked sauropods on land. But don't forget the oceans, a world just as dominated by reptiles, but often stranger and more alien than anything on land. Mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and giant sea turtles ruled the seas, turning oceans into massive predator playgrounds. If the asteroid had missed, the oceans today might look like a prehistoric version of Finding Nemo gone absolutely terrifying. First, let's talk mosasaurs. These were basically swimming T-Rex hybrids, with long, powerful bodies, flippers, and jawy ears capable of crushing everything in their path. Think of them as sharks on steroids, with the intelligence to match their hunting instincts. They weren't just brute force. Fossils suggest high metabolism, complex hunting, and possibly pack behavior. If left alone, mosasaurs could have continued evolving, maybe even developing social behaviors akin to modern dolphins or killer whales. Schools of mosasaurs hunting in coordinated attacks. Totally plausible. Imagine the deep ocean as a predator ballet, choreographed by evolution itself. Plesiosaurs, with their long necks and sleek bodies, dominated shallower waters. Their hunting style was elegant, darting through schools of fish, snapping them up with precision. Evolution might have pushed them to specialize even further. Picture enormous species with reinforced necks capable of hunting fast-moving prey, or even using necks as tools to manipulate the environment. Over millions of years, some could have developed intelligence rivaling land dinosaurs, especially in social species where cooperation mattered for survival. Communication underwater might involve clicks, pulses, or body displays, a whole language of waves, bubbles, and motions we can barely imagine. Now, let's not ignore giant turtles and crocodilians. Some marine turtles were as big as small cars, and crocodiles were apex predators near coastlines. In an asteroid-free timeline, these species could have diversified wildly. Some turtles might evolve into armoured submarines, others into fleet-footed scavengers patrolling reefs. Crocodilians could become nocturnal hunters, working around larger marine reptiles to carve out ecological niches. Essentially, the ocean would have been an evolutionary pressure cooker, forcing creativity in anatomy, behaviour, and survival strategies. Here's a fun image. Imagine a tropical coastline today. Tourists swim in the shallows, unaware that beneath the waves a pack of semi-intelligent mosasaurs coordinates an ambush for migrating fish. Offshore, plesiosaurs arch their long necks, scanning for squid while avoiding predatory mosasaurs. Even large herbivorous marine reptiles cruise nearby, grazing on underwater vegetation. Humanity. At this point, humans are still small mammals, hiding in caves or under rocks, never quite getting the chance to dominate the planet. The oceans are a parallel world, evolving independently and unchallenged. Let's get even weirder. In a timeline where intelligence emerged on land first, in raptors or ceratopsians, there could be indirect impacts on the seas. Coastal civilizations might have observed marine reptiles, using early boats to interact, hunt, or tame them. Imagine dinosaur fishermen trying to corral giant marine reptiles for food or raw materials, inventing nets, cages, and tools adapted to their massive prey. Early marine technology might evolve not because of curiosity, but survival necessity. The ocean becomes a frontier, just as challenging and dangerous as terrestrial landscapes. And climate shifts would have influenced ocean life too. Rising and falling sea levels, oceanic currents, and temperature swings could drive evolutionary experiments. Cold-adapted mosasaurs might patrol polar waters, while tropical regions host coral reef specialists. The diversity would be staggering. Some species might even develop gliding abilities or semi-amphibious traits, venturing onto land to escape predators, hunt, or migrate. Marine reptiles could become versatile ecological engineers, shaping the underwater environment in ways mammals today barely imagine. But let's consider intelligence again. Dolphins and whales today are mammals that evolved complex social behaviours in oceans. Mosasaurs and plesiosaurs had larger brains than expected for reptiles. If evolution favoured intelligence in high-pressure marine ecosystems, Some species might have developed problem-solving skills, cooperative hunting strategies, or rudimentary communication. Over tens of millions of years, the ocean could host civilizations, not built with bricks, but with coral, shells, or manipulated underwater terrain. Think Atlantis, but organic, alive, and swimming. Here's the dark existential twist. If marine reptiles evolved intelligence alongside land dinosaurs, humans might never exist at all. We wouldn't just be outcompeted on land, the oceans would belong to the next generation of sentient predators. Our imagination about advanced life forms would be limited to feathered raptors on land or hyper-intelligent mosasaurs underwater. We like to think mammals dominate intelligence, but evolution doesn't care about fairness. It rewards survival, adaptability, and the occasional stroke of luck. Finally, the ecological balance would be breathtaking. On land, dinosaurs experiment with intelligence, social behavior, and possibly technology. In the oceans, marine reptiles continue to diversify and dominate. Every ecosystem would have a ruler, massive apex predators, agile specialists, and cooperative pack hunters. Earth becomes a world where life thrives in extremes, constantly pushing the limits of size, intelligence, and survival. It's beautiful, terrifying, and completely alien, yet grounded in the same evolutionary rules that shape the world we know today. So if the asteroid missed, the oceans wouldn't just be full of fish, they'd be theatres of prehistoric brilliance, massive predators, social hunters, and maybe even intelligent species that rival anything on land. Humanity's role? Minimal, possibly non-existent, or at best a minor subplot in the grand story of dinosaurs, both above and below the waves. The seas would remind us that survival isn't about being cute or clever. It's about adapting, evolving, and surviving against giants. And these giants, in every sense of the word, wouldn't have let us claim the oceans without a fight. Flying dinosaurs in the skies, masters of air. When we think dinosaurs, our minds usually go to land, a domping roaring, towering over forests. But the skies? That's where evolution went full sci-fi. Pterosaurs weren't just flying dinosaurs in the casual sense. They were aerial engineers, wingspans rivaling small planes, razor-sharp beaks, and intelligence to match their hunting precision. In a timeline where the asteroid missed, the skies could have become a world just as complex and dangerous as the land and oceans. First, let's talk variety. Some pterosaurs, like Quetzalcoatlus, had wingspans over 30 feet. They weren't just flying, they were dominating. From hunting fish in rivers to scavenging from the ground, these giants ruled airspace like avian tyrants. Smaller pterosaurs, like the rhamphorhynchoids, darted around forests, snapping up insects with their incredible agility. If evolution continued unhindered, the skies would have hosted a layered ecosystem, enormous aerial predators patrolling high altitudes, mid-sized flyers controlling forests and rivers, and tiny gliders exploiting niches in canopies. Now, imagine intelligence entering the mix. Birds today prove that dinosaurs' closest living relatives can be incredibly smart. Crows use tools, ravens plan, parrots communicate. If small to mid-sized pterosaurs evolved similarly, we could be looking at sentient creatures capable of planning, cooperation, and problem-solving, all while flying. Aerial intelligence would bring an entirely new dimension to evolution. These creatures could coordinate hunting packs in the air, warn kin of danger, or even manipulate objects with their claws. The skies would be alive with activity, constantly moving, communicating, and strategizing. Here's where it gets really wild. What if intelligent pterosaurs built aerial civilizations? We're not talking skyscrapers like humans, more like floating cities woven through cliff faces, treetops, or even suspended platforms in the sky. Imagine networks of perches, rope bridges, and nests forming urban-like clusters, all connected by flight paths. Fire could be used for cooking, signaling, or early metallurgy, adapted to creatures that land only occasionally. Over millions of years, technology could evolve uniquely. Aerodynamics central to every invention, architecture designed around wingspans, and communication optimized for three-dimensional environments. Predation and survival would shape their societies too. Large predators in the air would force cooperation, strategic thinking, and territorial management. Flight adds a mobility advantage that land creatures can't match. Raptors might have evolved to ambush in coordinated strikes, or scavenger species could specialize in stealing prey mid-air. Seasonal migrations would influence social structures, trade networks, and maybe even early diplomacy. Think feathered ambassadors soaring hundreds of miles to negotiate territory. Evolution in the air rewards intelligence, adaptability, and precision in a way land-bound life never could. The integration with land and sea ecosystems adds another layer. Pterosaurs would interact constantly with both terrestrial dinosaurs and marine reptiles. Some might specialize in hunting fish from rivers and oceans, becoming semi-aquatic flyers, while others exploit prey on land. Communication across species boundaries might evolve. Signals to warn of predators, coordinated hunting strategies, or indirect competition for resources. The airspace isn't isolated, it's the bridge connecting land, sea, and sky in one massive, living network. Here's a fun mental image. A flock of medium-sized intelligent pterosaurs sweeps across a forest canopy, scouting for food. Beneath them, herbivorous dinosaurs graze, oblivious to aerial predators. In a nearby river, plesiosaurs and mosasaurs patrol, occasionally leaping to snatch fish escaping aerial hunters. The ecosystem is perfectly interlocked, every species adapting to the pressures of multiple dimensions, ground, water, and sky. And humans, still tiny mammals scurrying along, invisible to this three-dimensional predator network. What about culture? Intelligence plus flight could produce rituals, art, and even language unique to the skies. Feather displays might evolve into a form of symbolic communication beyond mating, perhaps representing status, profession, or alliances. Songs, calls, or wing vibrations could serve as complex signaling. Early technology could involve manipulating materials for nests, using fire cautiously in air-based constructions, or crafting tools adapted for claws. Imagine a feathered engineer shaping clay or weaving plant fibers while airborne. It sounds absurd, but evolution has a habit of doing absurd things very efficiently. And here's the existential twist. If the asteroid had missed, the skies might have been ruled by intelligent creatures long before mammals could catch up. Humans might never have evolved beyond small nocturnal terrestrial survivalists. Our dreams of cities, flight, and invention could have been realized first, not by mammals, but by pterosaurs soaring through the skies, building civilizations on sheer mobility and intelligence. Evolution doesn't guarantee mammals get the crown. It rewards whoever adapts best. In this timeline, we'd be spectators, at best, living under the shadows of aerial overlords. Finally, think about interaction between aerial and terrestrial intelligent species. Raptors on land, pterosaurs in the air, mosasaurs in the sea, three branches of sentient life competing and cooperating across dimensions. Trade routes could form across air and water, intelligence driving complex ecosystems into something almost like a coordinated planetary network. Dinosaurs would not just dominate Earth physically, they could dominate civilization, technology, and strategy, shaping an Earth unrecognizable to our mammalian imagination. In short, the skies would not have been empty. They would have been arenas of intelligence, competition, and cooperation, alive with predators, innovators, and engineers. Humanity's rise in such a world? Highly unlikely. Instead, evolution would have written a different story, one where intelligence and civilization are not mammalian traits, but the gift of feathered, winged, and clever dinosaurs ruling three-dimensional ecosystems. The long-term future. Dinosaurs over millions of years. Alright, buckle up. Imagine a timeline where the asteroid never hit, and dinosaurs continue to evolve for tens of millions more years. What would Earth look like? How would life adapt, and could dinosaurs remain dominant indefinitely? The truth is, evolution is relentless, patient, and unforgiving. Even the mightiest creatures aren't guaranteed eternity, but dinosaurs had a head start, and boy did they use it. First, let's tackle size and specialization. Dinosaurs had already perfected the art of being big, small, and everything in between. Sauropods were living skyscrapers. Tiny feathered raptors were nature's ninjas. Over millions of years, environmental pressures would force further refinement. Perhaps some sauropods shrink to survive fluctuating climates. Think dwarf titans adapting to island ecosystems. Other herbivores might develop new defense strategies, reinforced armor, longer spikes, or venomous bites. Predators would also evolve. Raptors could get smarter, stealthier, or even social enough to coordinate multi-species hunts. Evolution favors experimentation, and the Earth would be its canvas. Climate changes would remain a major driver. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and fluctuating seas would continually challenge dinosaur populations. Those that survived would be the most adaptable. Some might develop migratory patterns spanning continents like birds today. Others might evolve to tolerate extreme temperatures. Feathered species for cold, scaled species for hot regions. The planet itself would shape these creatures, forcing them to constantly innovate. Survival wouldn't be guaranteed, but domination would persist as long as they could adapt. Now, consider intelligence. Feathered theropods, pterosaurs, and other social species might continue developing problem-solving skills, tool use, and perhaps even proto-culture. Over millions of years, some lineages could evolve civilizations, not human-like, but intelligent, cooperative, and technologically capable in ways we can barely imagine. They might manipulate fire, shape the environment, build shelters, and even create social hierarchies based on knowledge rather than brute strength. Evolution could produce a world where multiple species are intelligent simultaneously. A planet of feathered engineers, cunning hunters, and clever strategists. The oceans and skies would co-evolve alongside land. Mosasaurs, plesiosaurs, and other marine reptiles could become apex intelligence in the seas, experimenting with coordinated hunting and communication. Pterosaurs might dominate the air, coordinating with land species and exploiting aerial niches. The world would become a three-dimensional web of life, land, sea, and sky interconnected, each layer evolving in parallel yet influencing the others. In this timeline, humans never have a chance to rise. Mammals remain background species, adaptable but not dominant. Ecology would reach a fascinating balance. Predators and prey would be locked in endless evolutionary arms races. Forests and grasslands would be shaped by herbivore grazing patterns, while predators regulate populations in intricate self-sustaining cycles. Perhaps some species would develop symbiosis, smaller herbivores helping larger ones, or birds warning massive predators of danger. Intelligence could amplify these dynamics, creating societies that manage ecosystems intentionally without realizing it. Evolution as both creator and planner. Over tens of millions of years, further innovations might appear. Flight and intelligence combined could produce aerial architects. Aquatic species might experiment with problem-solving underwater. Terrestrial species could build tools and structures that rival early human settlements. The planet would be a living laboratory, where life constantly pushes boundaries, larger brains, refined bodies, and new behaviors emerging in response to environmental challenges. Evolution never rests, and neither would these dinosaurs. Here's the existential kicker. Extinction would still lurk in the background. Even without the asteroid, life is never permanent. Volcanic supereruptions, drastic climate shifts, or cosmic events could suddenly threaten these advanced species. Intelligence might delay extinction, but it cannot fully prevent it. The Earth itself is unpredictable, a planet of constant change, capable of toppling even the most dominant rulers. Dinosaurs, no matter how intelligent or well adapted, would still be subject to the whims of nature. Yet in the meantime, the scale of life would be staggering. Imagine entire continents dominated by intelligent land dinosaurs, rivers patrolled by massive marine reptiles, and skies alive with gliding or flying civilizations. communication, problem solving, and social coordination could rival or surpass early human achievements. Earth might become a planet where multiple sentient species coexist, some feathered, some scaled, some winged, all sharing the planet yet competing subtly, each experimenting with survival and culture in its own way. The philosophical takeaway is profound. Dinosaurs surviving the asteroid wouldn't just mean bigger lizards roaming the Earth. It would represent an alternative trajectory for life itself, a planet where intelligence is not human exclusive, where civilization can emerge in countless forms, and where the drama of evolution continues unabated across millions of years. Humanity's story is contingent, a single branch in an endless tree of possibilities. In a no-asteroid timeline, we might have been a footnote in the chronicles of life, gazing up at the real masters of Earth. And yet, for all their potential, dinosaurs wouldn't be immortal. Evolution ensures constant flux. New species arise, others vanish. Environmental pressures shape bodies, brains, and societies. Over millions of years, even dominant dinosaurs might give way to successors, leaving fossils behind as reminders of their once unquestioned reign. The asteroid didn't invent extinction. It merely accelerated a chapter in Earth's long dramatic story. Dinosaurs, if left unchallenged, could have rewritten it for tens of millions more years, but even they would eventually face the ultimate arbiter, change. In the end, imagining this timeline gives perspective. Life is resilient, inventive, and adaptable, capable of surprising intelligence and unimaginable diversity. Dinosaurs surviving would have reshaped the planet's ecosystems, technology, and even culture in ways beyond human imagination. The story reminds us that domination is temporary, survival is a game of constant adaptation, and the Earth itself is the ultimate playwright forever orchestrating the drama of life. The grand reflection: life, dinosaurs, and the what if. So here we are, standing at the edge of imagination, staring into a world that never existed, a world where the asteroid missed and dinosaurs never went extinct. What does it really mean? What lessons can we take from this thought experiment? And most importantly, what does it tell us about our place in the universe? Let's start with scale. Dinosaurs surviving would have reshaped life on Earth in ways almost impossible to visualize. Land, sea, and sky dominated by creatures of unimaginable size, intelligence, and adaptability. Raptors orchestrating hunts like aerial SWAT teams, ceratopsians ploughing forests, mosasaurs patrolling oceans, pterosaurs building treetops cities. Every ecosystem a theatre of competition, cooperation, and innovation. Human beings, as we know ourselves, might never have emerged. Or if we did, we'd be minor players, observing feathered and scaled engineers running the planet like CEOs of a multi-billion-year enterprise. It's humbling. Evolution doesn't care who we are. It rewards persistence, adaptability, and the occasional stroke of cosmic luck. Here's where the existential twist hits. Our species, which often feels like the pinnacle of creation, might not even have been on the stage at all. Intelligence is not predetermined to arise in mammals. Dinosaurs had all the tools: complex brains, social behaviours, problem-solving skills, and, in some lineages, the potential for technology. If evolution favoured them, they could have been the architects of civilization. Cities of leaves, nests, and feathers, underwater settlements sculpted from coral, airborne communities built among treetops, life forms rewriting the rules of intelligence in ways we humans can barely imagine. It's a reminder that existence is contingent, a product of timing, chance, and adaptability, and yet even the grandest of species is fragile. Extinction is the ultimate equalizer. Dinosaurs may have survived the asteroid, but they wouldn't have escaped the inexorable pressures of evolution, climate, and cosmic randomness. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and shifting continents would continually test their resilience. Intelligence and technology may delay the inevitable, but survival is never guaranteed. This what if isn't just a story about domination, it's a meditation on impermanence. No matter how mighty, no matter how clever, all life is temporary in the face of time. But here's the beauty. Imagining dinosaurs surviving transforms our perception of life itself. It shows that intelligence as civilization and culture are not uniquely human traits. They're emergent properties of evolution, possible in any lineage with the right combination of social complexity, environmental challenge, and sheer persistence. Dinosaurs could have invented tools, used fire, developed aerial strategies, and mastered the seas. Life on Earth is a sandbox for experimentation, and intelligence is just one of evolution's possible experiments, not its inevitable outcome. The skies, oceans, and forests of this alternate Earth would have been alive in ways beyond our imagination. Predation, cooperation, and culture intertwined across dimensions. Trade routes for flying pterosaurs, hunting strategies among raptors, communication networks underwater. Evolution is the ultimate storyteller, writing chapters we can only glimpse in speculative scenarios. And through it all, humans, small nocturnal and fragile mammals, would have been lucky to survive, let alone thrive. In this world, humility is mandatory. Our sense of supremacy is upended. Yet there's also a poetic dimension. Dinosaurs surviving would have extended the drama of life for tens of millions of years, giving Earth an even richer tapestry of evolution. The interplay of intelligence, adaptation, and survival creates stories that echo far beyond the fossil record. Every predator and prey, every social group and migrating herd would contribute to a living narrative of experimentation, failure, and occasional brilliance. The world would be a stage, constantly evolving, with no guarantees, no final acts, just endless improvisation orchestrated by the universe itself. And there's one more subtle lesson here. Chance shapes history in ways we rarely appreciate. The asteroid that wiped out the dinosaurs paved the way for mammals, and eventually humans. It was chaos that created opportunity. Without it, feathered and scaled intelligences might have filled the niches we now occupy. Civilizations, technology, art, and maybe even philosophy could have emerged, but from claws, feathers, and fangs instead of hands and brains like ours. Life's trajectory is fragile, contingent, and astonishingly unpredictable. So what if the asteroid missed? We get a vision of an Earth dominated by dinosaurs, intelligent, adaptive, and creative. Civilizations in the trees, underwater, and across the skies. Ecosystems more intricate than anything we know. Humans, if present at all, would be side characters, observers of a world far grander, stranger, and more alien than our imagination usually allows. The story forces us to reconsider our arrogance, our assumptions about intelligence, and our fragile dominance. Evolution doesn't favour morality or fairness, only persistence, innovation, and adaptation. In the end, the asteroid is a reminder that life is contingent, evolution is experimental, and intelligence is not a human monopoly. Dinosaurs surviving would have produced a world simultaneously terrifying, beautiful, and profoundly alien. It challenges us to see our place in time as fleeting, fragile, and one possibility among countless others. The planet's narrative continues, indifferent to human desire, full of possibility, and awesomely unpredictable. So take a deep breath. Imagine a planet where the skies are filled with wings, the oceans teem with titans, and forests echo with the roars of creatures older than any civilization. Let the thought settle. Earth could have been unimaginably different, and our story is just one branch on a tree with infinite forks. The asteroid might have spared us, but it also reminds us that survival, intelligence, and civilization are accidents in a universe that plays by its own rules. And maybe, just maybe, the dinosaurs were ready to write the next chapter without us at all.